Ladies and gentlemen of Marketing 450, this video is to give you a little bit more insight into the final project, kind of an overview of what it should entail, what it should look like, how I'm going to grade it, those types of things. So with no further ado, let's get started. And speaking of getting started, I think you should already be started on the final project, right? Pretty much we're going to just do the final project is going to look a lot like every competition, and so if you've done choice modeling already, I suggest you get in right away and do it before you forget. If you did MaxDiff already, do it right away, and then I would suggest the same thing with each of the CX competitions. Right after you do it, jump in and start analyzing the data for the final project. Don't put it off. It's too big to put off. Let's get started. All right, so the final project. In class, we've done what I'll call pieces of the puzzles, and they've all been individual presentations, right? We had one for each of those classes. We had one for choice modeling. We've had one for MaxDiff. We've had three actually. We are about to have three for CX, right? The final project, though, imagine it's one large project. It was one gigantic survey. It's one presentation, right? So we're getting away from multiple presentations and we're going to the concept of imagine one really big presentation, right? And in this really big presentation, we should be having choice modeling, conjoint, MaxDiff, and CX. Okay, so what's not in the final project? Let's talk about that. We're not going to do anything with simulations. I think simulations is one of the coolest things ever. You'll see it again on the next exam, but it's not going to be in the final project. I want to kind of simplify this for you. Brand price conjoint was a class that we took out, and for good reason, and that will not be in the final project. Now, in other videos, you'll see that I've got the databases up there, so please, brand price conjoint is out. Okay, you do not have to do that. And in surveys, you don't have to do a survey of any kind. We did have a class on choice modeling surveys, and we had a class on CX surveys, but you don't have to do any survey work. The surveys have already been done. The data is already collected, no surveys. And then last but not least, there was a class on Let's Go Fishing, and it kind of talks about how to look for relationships in the database, kind of that are not in the formal analysis. We're not doing that either, okay? So that class has also been canceled. All right, so the final project, what will it look like? It's going to be one presentation video, meaning you should have one executive summary. And that executive summary, as you know, is really, in 30 seconds to 2 minutes, it's giving me the highlights of an overview, if you will, of the results, looking across all of the choice modeling, looking across MaxDiff, looking across all the CX findings. What are those key findings? Then how do they tie together, right? We don't want to look at them individually. We want to look across the findings. What would the executive want to know in that executive summary? That's what it is. The agenda and introduction will have one agenda, one introduction, hook the reader with the introduction. The research methods will have one research methods section. I will give you a little bit more information on the research methods, like how the data was collected, that sort of thing. And then we'll go to the results, right? And so the results obviously are going to go across choice modeling, MaxDiff, and CX research, right? And then we'll have one summary, okay? No different than what we've done every class, but now we're just going to have one giant presentation. All right, so grading the final project. How am I going to grade it? Did you meet the objectives, right? And there's a couple different objectives, kind of the way I'm looking at this. One is each of those methods that we've gone into have specific objectives. We have a specific analysis. And did you do those same analysis in this project, right? And so first things first. So if you leave out an objective, that would be bad. Okay. Then each section of a market research presentation has its own objectives. It has its own purpose, if you will. That's one of those things. So like there's what do we do in an executive summary, right? What do we not do in an executive summary? We've spent a lot of time in class working on that. Did you meet the objectives of an executive summary? And for each of the sections of that market research presentation, did you do what you were supposed to do? Then we get down to the art of storytelling. I once said in the beginning that this class is all about analyzing data and telling stories with data. And a big part of it is going beyond just what we see in the graphs and tables, and we're getting to the questions of what, so what, now what, and then how do we look not just at one graph, but how do we do this across the entire presentation? That is the art of storytelling. We'll see how good we get in our interpretations. And then finally, too, it's Presentation Zen. Presentation Zen's been a part of every part of this class and every competition And we need to have this presentation look and illustrate and bring to life presentation Zen, like always, right? So I guess the first things first is you got to have the right answers. You got to meet the objectives first and then Zen. But that's what's going to make a great presentation, okay? All right, so the final project. This final project is the most points of anything in the syllabus. We have been working diligently hard. It'll be almost 2 months of getting us ready to do this final project. This is, you know, the big hoorah, if you will. It's the World Series of Marketing 450. I'd like to go out great. I'd like you to go out great, and I'd love to sit back and watch your presentations and say, I can't believe how much growth and how good this team is. You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to have these judges giving you all 10s. That will be a great day. It'll help your grade. It'll be a fun way to go out. So let's be great. All right, my friends. Thank you. If you got any other questions, please email me or set up a time to talk, and we can talk in office hours over this. Have a great day.